Hello, SPN family. I'm Steph with Creation, and welcome to our super celebration of virtual experiences featuring the cast of Supernatural. Just a reminder that the top tipper wins a 5-minute one-on-one video meet and greet with Adam right after this panel. So make sure your top supporter information is updated with your current email address. To find that, under the Stage It screen, you'll see where it says Top Supporter Rewards. Scroll to the link that says Complete your top supporter information. And if you'd like to tip, click the green tip button at the bottom left-hand corner of your Stage It screen. All right, first up today is someone who dominates the karaoke stage when he's not being known to us as Mick Davies in Supernatural. Please welcome Adam Fergus.
Hello, greetings from the Millennium Falcon. I am up in cyberspace. Actually, I'm in cyberspace. That's kind of interesting. Hello, guys. I miss you all so much. I'm so grateful that you're all joining here today. I am in Norway, in Bergen in Norway, shooting the second season of Lykkeland, or State of Happiness, as it's known in English. And I see Jen. My first question from Jen, can you tell us a little bit about season 2 of Lykkeland? I can tell you a little bit about it. It's set between 77 and 81. So we get to dress up in these lovely, crazy 70s type costumes. I have super long locks. Normally I'm shaven, and I've got these great glasses. Anyone that's seen the first season, that was set like 10 years before that. It's all about the oil industry in Norway and how it changed Norway from a very poor country on the periphery of Europe to the country as it is today, which is one of the wealthiest countries in the world, and how oil changed the whole face of the country. And it's really interesting doing a historical show that's also a drama. So you get to kind of learn a little bit about their history as well as be back at work. Holy moly, it's so good to be back at work. Everyone is, as I was saying to the people in my meet and greet earlier on, everyone is going through their own, personal kind of woes at the moment. We've all experienced COVID in different ways, some worse than others. I thankfully had some great times during COVID. I got married, and I'll tell you a little bit about that, I'm sure. And then we moved to Ireland in August, and been basically to be in preparation for this show that I'm shooting right now. And as I was saying, everyone has kind of finished Netflix a couple of times at this point, so someone has to be making more content, and thankfully I'm one of the lucky ones. I know Jared went back to work 4 days ago, or 5 days ago, I think. It's great. It's great to be back at work and having a sense of purpose again. So I'm very grateful for that. I'm not very grateful that we haven't a vaccine, and I don't know when we're going to be seeing each other again in the capacity that we always enjoy so much. I know it basically just happened right after Vegas Con last year, and Jesus, it's been a crazy few months. But I didn't know how much I would miss my SPN family until this happened, and I'm just dying to get back at it, dying to get back in the circuit, make a show of myself on the karaoke stage, and just say hello to everyone again. Say hello to all you guys. But sorry, Jen, to get back to your question. Yeah, it covers those 4-year spans. So if you know anything about the Norwegian oil history or the history of Norway in that time, it covers some things that you may know of. Yeah, I have a bigger role to play in this season than I had the last season, which is also great. But we're not shooting the main body of the show until January in Lithuania. We're, as you know, like with tax incentives and stuff, a lot of these countries in Eastern Europe provide big tax incentives. So I'm getting to go there for 4 months from January until April, and I just feel spoiled at the moment to be able to not only go to a place that I've never been, but also to be back working. So it's all great. Amanda Jane, do you have any funny memories from the Supernatural set? I think a lot of people are going to be a bit tired of these answers because I have, it's been so long since I've been on a Supernatural set, but literally every day there was a funny memory from every day being on set, if it was from Jared's fart machine in the car, which was rather hilarious, to, I don't know. The last day on set was one of the best days I've ever had. I was when we shot that scene when Dagon came down, and it was just a very action-packed scene. So that's one of my favorite memories. We shot one scene for 14 hours that day because it was such a complicated action scene. And at the very end of it, if you watched any of the outtakes that the post-production crew used to make, when I was holding the gun at Jared and Jensen, and Jensen was trying to move baby around, turn baby around, but he couldn't turn it around quick enough. So it ended up being one of those scenes like from Austin Powers. So he would go like this way and then turn the wheel, because there's no power steering in Baby, always. So he'd turn the wheel and he'd move back a little bit, move forward, move back. It was really hilarious. You kind of had to be there, but if you watch the video, you can see it. Adam, what's it like being back in Warwick? And am I enjoying working with Bart Edwards again? I really am. Bart, he's wonderful guy. His hotel room is right beside my hotel room. We see each other every day. We hang out every day, and it's a real pleasure to be working so closely with someone on set and get on so well with them off set as well. It not only does it add to the to the scenes that we're doing, if we're given quite a bit of freedom to improv as well, and it's better when you trust the person implicitly, and you can really kind of lean into that side of things, and as well as going to the gym and having a gym buddy, having a buddy to go for drinks with in the evening and go for dinner with. And thankfully my wife has now come out to join us as well, so I have an abundance of companionship, so it's all been great. What's your favorite thing about Mick, or what's your current favorite song? Well, my current favorite song has to be Look at Me, I'm Sandra Dee, because I won an award last night for best costume, if you can see that. Best costume in a bar in Norway, in Bergen. I dressed up as Sandra Dee, and if I can find a photo that's not completely inappropriate, I was wearing a Sandra Dee wig. It's around here somewhere. And I sang Look at Me, I'm Sandra Dee in karaoke, which was, I watched it back this morning. One should never watch back their karaoke songs from the night before, because in my mind, I nailed it. This morning, watching it back, not so much, really not so much. It was quite mortifying. And I hope not too many people outside of my wife has a recording of it, because it was car crash, absolute car crash. But listen, I still won an award, last little plastic Halloween type trophy that I'm going to cherish. I really don't think I was the best costume. I think it was more for effort rather than anything else. But I don't. My favorite thing about Mick, I don't know. I like the fact that he was a good guy. I was watching Misha and Jared and Jensen did a Zoom call with Senator Amy Klobuchar and Ashley Biden, Joe Biden's daughter, the other day. I don't know if anyone watched it, but if you did, one of the things Misha said was like, he's trying to compare, the Biden campaign with, Supernatural, and how we can make a correlation. And he said that the three of them always had they were fighting for the forces of good in the world. They were always trying to fight for good. And I think the beauty about Mick was that although he was brought up a certain way in Hendrix and Kendricks is the gin. He was inherently a good guy, and it's fun to play those kind of characters and to be one of the good guys. And as I've said umpteen times, I think his time was cut short, but I don't know. I always look back at it in fond memories, the way he went out. He went out with such on a high, and he got to tell off Dr. Hess in the end. And I thought his arc was quite complete. Even if I wanted to be on the show a little bit longer for selfish reasons, I thought he had a complete arc, and he did get to kind of get some fulfillment for all the pain and suffering he had growing up in that school. Teresa de Piero, Adam, question: have you Binge watching any shows during quarantine. Oh my God, yes, all of the shows. I probably watched The West Wing again. What else did I watch? Jesus, it's been so. I watched a lot of movies actually. We try to watch a lot of kind of like, you know, discipline ourselves, watch some old classics. I watched Network, the one that sticks out. I watched Veep all over again as well. Yeah, and then Mandalorian I watched. Yeah, I got the whole Disney Plus thing or whatever that's called, and watched a whole load of Disney movies, a lot of old Disney movies, and it was kind of real pleasant. We tried to watch stuff that was quite happy and rather than adding to the depression that was COVID. And so we tried to kind of avoid that as best we could. But yeah, it's safe to say that I watched a lot of television. What's your favorite thing? Madonna's son. What's your favorite thing on cons? My favorite thing on cons. I've always loved these. I've always loved the panels. Like it's great when David is there with me, so we can kind of bounce off each other and we can actually see you guys. I love that interaction. I love a big crowd in a big room. It's just hearing that kind of laughter back. Getting that. I've always said that about conventions. We have. I did a lot of theater growing up, and it was one thing that you don't get from TV is you get that instant kind of reaction from the audience, be it during the play with laughter or applause, but at the end of the play, you can always sense, if you do a show, like sometimes you're doing a show, you might do over 6 months, you might do 100 shows or so. And you can really gauge the audience response every night, like, at the end of the play when, not only if they get up and give you a standing ovation, but also like there's just the enthusiasm in the response, and you can really taste the atmosphere during a play, and you don't get that doing TV at all. And I've always said that about Supernatural, and the experience that's provided, or the con experience that's subsequently provided, has been just immeasurable. It's like being back on stage to a certain degree, especially at the panels. You get to kind of, really feel the audience's laughter and applause and the questions and all that jazz. But I do love the meet and greets as well. Like, I love the repeat offenders that come back to hear myself and David when we're doing them together, and even me on my own, to just listen to my age-old, probably retelling of stories, rehashing of jokes. But yeah, you still come back. So I must be funnier than I thought. Effulgent. What was it like working with Erica Carpluck? The show was called Being Erica, but her name is Erin Carpluck. Adam was one of my favorite characters I've ever seen. Oh, thanks so much. I loved that show. I really, really did. There was actually a big write-up on the show a couple of weeks ago in the New York Times. And it's such a unique show. Anyone that hasn't seen it, if you're stuck for something to watch, and I know some of us are at the moment, search it out. It's a great show. It's a show that I'm super, super proud of. It was at a point in my career. I was living in London, and I'd come back to Dublin to do a play. I was doing Les Liaisons Dangereuses, Dangerous Liaisons, basically in a theatre in Dublin. And I was kind of contemplating, like, London, I was always hit and miss for me working in London. And I was wondering, was I going to go back there? I always wanted to move to the States. And so it was around the time, it was 2010, beginning of 2010. And it was around the time of the ash cloud. Anyone that knows the ash cloud that happened in Iceland. So I'd flown to London to audition for the show. And then they sent the audition tape over to Canada, where it was filmed in Toronto. They sent the tape over, and immediately they got straight back, and they said, "Where is he? He's in London. Don't let him fly back to Dublin," because all the airports were closing. So I wasn't allowed to go back to Dublin. And then on the Monday morning, this was like a Friday, and I stayed there for the weekend. And on the Monday, they called me and said I had got the part, and they wanted me to fly that Friday from London, but I wasn't to go back to Dublin because Dublin Airport was closing because of the ash cloud. And so I got a friend who was flying over. He was coming over anyway for business. And I got my mum, because I only came over with like a little rucksack, just my laptop and a couple of clean pairs of underwear. And then on the Friday, he comes over with a bag that my mum packed for me. So my mum packed this bag of clothes. I hadn't lived at home. I just had thrown some stuff at home, but I hadn't lived at home in 5 years. I'd been living in London before that for 5 years. And so she packed this bag of clothes for me, and he came over on the Friday. And I flew to Toronto the next day. And I got to Toronto, opened my bag, and I was like, most of these clothes are my little sister's clothes. What was she thinking? I was picking out things that I'd never seen before. I think she just emptied some of my drawers into a bag. And anyway, that was my first experience of landing in Toronto. But I have to say, it was like the reason that show meant so much to me. It was my first lead on a show that was televised in the States, in North America, and it had such a big following. And the character I played was just a great character. Adam, the show is basically about this girl who has been given the ability to go back in time and fix any regrets that she has. And then she meets my character, who also has this ability, and they go on these adventures together, and it's super fun show. It's got a lot of morals. I think like knowing a lot of you like I do of the SBN family, I think it's a show that would be right up your alley. It's got so much heart. It's got so much love. And it's each episode has its own kind of moral. It's something that I'd love to go back and do. I did hear a rumor that they were making an American version of the show, and I would love to be brought back in for that. But it's a great show. Thanks for that. Eva, what's the strangest word you've learned in Norwegian? Also, have you learned any Swedish? We are slightly better than Norwegians. I heard you're pretty fun. I do have a couple of Swedish friends, and they're tremendous fun. And the plan was actually, when we finished here, our plan was to go to Sweden for a while. But, morally, like with everything else at the moment, you're just kind of thinking, what's the best thing to do? What's the most, responsible thing to do? And so we're just going to go back to Ireland and quarantine for 2 weeks, because the plan is to go to visit my older sister. Lives in Cape Town in South Africa with her husband and 3 kids, and I haven't seen her in about 3 years, and I just I really hope I get there. So we just want to make sure we're safe and quarantined as much as we can. Ireland is back in a full lockdown, so we're just gonna not go to Sweden, just hunker down. But I haven't learned any strange words in Norwegian, I don't think. One strange word in Norwegian is ganza. That's for jumper. So your we call it jumper, like your sweater, right? It's called a ganza. In the Irish language, it's called ganzi. It might not be as fascinating to you as it is to me, but like there's a lot, because the Vikings invaded Ireland many, many years ago. We share a lot of the a lot of words. There's a lot of similarities in our words, and that was one of them. What if I missed one? Oh, Shania, in Clean Break, I missed that one. Sorry. In Clean Break, do you think Frank managed prison well? This is another show I did, an Irish show. It's really short. You can probably get it pretty easily. It's like 4 episodes, it's going to ruin it for you now, but yeah, this kind of ruins it. But I don't know if there was supposed to be a second season of that show, actually, Shania, and he was. I didn't get to see any of the scripts, but I think he did serve like a 5 or 6 year term in prison. I don't think he managed it very well. No, it wasn't. Prison and Frank were like oil and water. Like he just wouldn't have survived well in prison at all. What's the strange? Oh, we had that one. Are you enjoying my hometown, Bergen, Norway? I really, really am. It's a great town. We found our local little restaurants. It's called the Daily Pot, and they have like one of my work colleagues is a vegan, so they've plenty of vegan options and plenty of healthy options, and sometimes I get very lazy and don't eat very healthily, and this is like a really healthy option. It's a great city. I had a lovely night last night, as I've said. I won the award for best costume in a lovely bar called the Brian Boru, which is an Irish bar. I went for a lovely walk or hike up one of your mountains. So Bergen is surrounded by 7 mountains. They kind of encircle, and that's why it's so wet here. And they have these just amazing hikes up these mountains. So I've been up the mountain quite a bit, and had a real lovely walk in the rain. But there's no such thing as bad weather in Norway. There's only the wrong clothes, as someone very famously once said. Do you think Sam and Mick could have had more bonding time, seeing as they were nerd best friends? Yes, completely. I really do. And the funny thing is, myself and Jared have had so many nerdy conversations outside of Supernatural that I think we would have lent itself well. I think Sam and Mick would have gone on well. I would have loved to have seen what would have happened if Mick came back for some more episodes, if he hadn't been shot in the back of his head by someone who he considered a friend. Yeah, I think they would have had proper bonding time. Maybe gone to a few libraries together. Hung out in that regard. Learned more of the lore. Nerded through a few books. But yeah, I definitely think that you're on the money there. Paddy Hewitt Barbera, what did you have to do to prepare for that marathon that you ran last year? Shit, funny story. I had to do more than I did. Put it that way. I don't know how I got through that marathon. It was hilarious because actually after the marathon we all went for this lovely dinner. And before the meal, Jared just stood up and said, I just want to congratulate Adam Fergus for not only completing the marathon, but like finishing at the same time as Misha did. Because, Misha before his hip injury, Misha ran like 5 miles every day. And I used to play a lot of sport. I was kind of fit in that regard, but I'd never run 26 miles. I'd never run 20 miles. I'd never run 15 miles. The longest run I had in preparation, one of maybe 5 runs I did for the marathon, was Michelle from Stans and Brianna were in Michelle's house, and I called over and I went for a run around the lake. We were doing what's that? What was it called? New Jersey Con, and it was just before the marathon. And I said, look, I'm better go and do a run here. Like I'm gonna die in this marathon if I don't do a run. So I went out and I did a 10-mile run that day and got lost. And they had to come in the car and try to find me on the run. But I was so knackered. Yeah, it was just so interesting. And I've tried on a treadmill to run a good, like not even 10 miles. I maybe got 11 miles since then, but I don't think I'll ever do another marathon because my knees at the end, they were like swollen. We were in that restaurant and I just said to the waiter, he was taking my order, and I said, do you know what I'd love to have? You get 2 big bags of ice and about 6 napkins. And I got the bags of ice and I got napkins and I tied them to my knees. And I would walk out to the bathroom, and I had to go to the bathroom like basically like Quasimodo, hunkered over. I couldn't straighten my legs. It was quite hilarious. But yes, one of the most proudest things that I've ever done. I'm so glad to have done it for charity. But I was blown away that I actually got through it. And I think the reason I got through it was because we all kind of, like Jared and Jensen and myself and Misha and Rob and Jason Mans did it, Rob Benedict, and of course Rachel Miner. And so we pushed Rachel in her chair for the first 5 miles. And then at about halfway through mile 13, we kind of had gone a little bit ahead of Jason and Rob. I can't believe Rob did it. He was only 5 years after he'd had a stroke, and it was just an amazing achievement from both himself and Jason. But we kind of gotten a little bit ahead of them because myself and Misha were trying to keep up with Jared and Jensen, and then we couldn't keep up with them anymore, so they went off. And then myself and Misha were like just I think we finished maybe 10 or 20 minutes behind them. But if I didn't have Misha to run with and didn't have this as the SPN families just support from, you know, we got to about mile 19 or 20, and I was like, Misha, I have to walk for a second, my knees. And so we'd walk for a bit, and then we'd come to a crossroads, and there'd be like so many fans there with banners and signs and shouting encouragement. We're like, fuck it, we have to run again. So we'd run for another couple of miles, and then he'd have to slow down. And towards at the very end, like the Seattle Marathon, I don't know why they do this to anybody, but you think you're near the end, you turn this last corner, and there's a fucking hill. Like they just put it right at the end, this hill up. You go up this hill and then down the other side into the stadium, the big stadium that you finish in. And so we turned around and got up this hill. I was like, man, you're gonna have to carry me up this hill. So we got to the top of the hill, and then for some reason I saw the finish line. So it was about like, half a mile to go. You could see into the stadium, and I got a second wind or a 50th wind at that point and started legging it. And Misha was like, what the fuck are you doing, man? You can't just run now and leave me behind. So we both finished at the same time. And there's a photo of Misha crossing the line. And if you look at his calf muscle, it's like up here. It's all seized up in cramp. It was yeah. I don't know. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Okay. Where's that? Bergen, Norway, bonding time, marathon. Oh, here we go. Have you found any new surprisingly quality? Well, no, I got married during COVID. Myself and my wife were due to be married in April, and we obviously had to cancel everything. And then in June, we just had enough. We didn't know when it was going to end, and we just said, let's just get married. And we were looking around LA, places in LA to get married, and we couldn't get married in LA because all the courts were closed, and so we just decided to go to Vegas and get married by Elvis. And so, like literally 5-6 days later, we were in Vegas. We had 8 friends. And we stayed in the Bellagio in a beautiful big room. They gave us this big room in the Bellagio, and Elvis was just the best wedding ever. It was just brilliant fun. And we could Zoom call it was on Facebook Live for our family and friends. So Haley's family and my family back home in Ireland, they could all, they were all like sipping champagne and watching us in this 7-minute kind of video that they streamed. Elvis singing, some quality old Elvis tunes, and then half an hour later we were in the pool. There wasn't very many people in Vegas at the time. It was a bit of a risk during COVID, but we were like, you know what? We'll quarantine when we get back to LA, and thankfully no one got sick. But we kept to ourselves, all like 10 of us. So myself and Haley and 8 friends. We went to the pool, went to a nice meal, isolated from everyone else. And then we just went up to our hotel room. Just, as I said, a lovely hotel room that we could just bring everyone up. We had some drinks, we played some games. And it was like never in my life did I envisage that was going to be my wedding. But it was such a special time. And, you always hear these stories of people at their own weddings not enjoying the day because it's so stressful. But we just had a cracker of a day. No stress. Just fun. It's great fun. So that was surprising quality pleasure. All right. What is your favorite holiday and why? Jen in New Jersey. Oh, wow. Anyone knows David Hayden Jones knows he hates that favorite word. Because I've had so many. I've had so many great holidays. Working. When you get to work as an actor and you get to travel to these places like I'm traveling now, it's kind of like a holiday because you get to do what you love in life, and you get to be in a new city, anywhere around the world. I'm loving this current holiday work, as we call it, a busman's holiday, because just because of the year that it's been, and because it's been such a tough year. Like people have had it a lot tougher than I've had it, but it's been a tough year for everyone, and it's so great to be back at work. It's so great to be back filming, doing the thing I love, and being in a new city and experience new places around the city, going for hikes and stuff around here. I did have a holiday once in Laos when I was in my early 20s. We went to Thailand, and Thailand was great. We spent like 3 or 4 weeks in Thailand, and then we were kind of like, looking for a little bit more of an adventure. At the time, Laos had only been opened to the public about 4 years. Their borders had previously been closed, and we went up to this like jungle in the middle of nowhere, and just had this stellar experience of, there was one night. It's probably a bit of a long story, but it was one night one day we all rented these mopeds, went right into the jungle, into the indigenous people of Laos are the Hmong tribes. So we went all into this tribal village, and one of the guys' mopeds broke down. Well, it didn't break down; it ran out of petrol, or ran out of gas, and so I took it upon myself to go back in and get gas at a local gas station. Now, the local gas station was a hut with a gas pump outside it. And so I got on, and the roads were like in parts that were kind of fine with potholes, like a lot of potholes, but then it would go into this dirt track, and you would go over this rickety bridge that I I don't know if it could have held a car, like it barely could hold my bike. And so anyway, I went back over. It was about 4 or 5 miles. Got the gas, came back out, found the guys. At this point, they were getting a little bit of attention from the locals, and the locals were kind of like going down, checking them out. And we tried to open, if on a moped or on a motorbike, a lot of time the gas tank is underneath the seat. So we tried to open up the seat, but the key broke in the lock. So we had to go. Because I was the one that was opening the seat, I said, "Fuck it, I'll go back in again." So I went back in on my moped. At this point, it was about 6 or 7 in the evening. It was getting late. It was getting dark, and there's literally no electricity out in this tribal village. Zero electricity. So they and 3 of the 4 bikes that we had, 3 of them, the lights didn't work on them. So I went back in. My bike wasn't working, so I went in to get a spare key from the place we rented the bikes. Got the spare key, but then they were like, "You can't take that bike. It's getting dark. You won't be able to see." And so they gave me this other bike. And as I was driving out of the thing, they shouted at me, "Go, be careful of the brakes. The brakes don't work very well." I was like, "Okay, I have no choice." So out I go on the bike. And I'm about 2 or 3. I thought I was closer, but I must have been only be 2.5 miles into the journey. And I hit a pothole. At this point, it had gotten dark, and I hit a pothole, and the whole bike just cut out, and the light went off, and all I could hear was the jungle just going, like all those noises synonymous with the jungle were all just going off in my ear, and I was just freaked out. I was totally a scaredy cat. I'd seen these kids play with them earlier on that day on the side of the road. I'd seen these kids play with the biggest scorpion I've ever seen in my life. And these were like 3 or 4-year-old little tribal kids poking the scorpion with a stick. So its stinger would go down like this, and they were just poking it. And it was huge. Like it was, I don't know how to describe it. Like it was a huge, big thing. And all I could think of in those few moments was that I'm going to get eaten alive by a load of scorpions. Anyway, so I tried to start the bike, and it didn't start immediately. And eventually the bike started, but the light didn't go back on. So I had to do the rest of the journey on this bike with no light. I was scared out of my mind. It's like going along at like 2 miles an hour, not being able to see the road in front of me. I couldn't see maybe 10 meters in front of me, and then you could just, your eyes eventually adjusted a little bit. I've got to eventually got over that rickety bridge. And about an hour and a half later, I got to the lads, and the lads at this point were going, "Where the fuck are you, man? You took your time." And of course, I was about to kill them all because I was the one that had gone and gotten the spare key. But so yeah, as I pulled up, this is the best part of the story. As I pulled up to the guys, and they were like, "Where are you?" And I stopped the bike, and I went to get off the bike. And as I went to get off the bike, the light just went bing, went on full blast again, as if to take the piss out of me. So it was one of my favorite moments on a holiday, because I can look back at it now and laugh, but it wasn't great at the time. Serendipity 101. What was it like filming Call of the Wild? You know, it was amazing. It was amazing. I'd never done a massive, big blockbuster movie before. And I got to work with a couple of my heroes. I didn't have any scenes with Harrison Ford, but, you know, we were on set together, and he would fly in his helicopter in the morning, literally fly it in himself. It was amazing. It was a huge, big set. If no one has seen this movie, it's on I think it's still on Disney. It's such a wonderful movie. It's a feel good movie. It's all about animals, and it came out maybe 2 weeks before COVID hit, so it had 2 weeks in the cinemas, and then went online. I went on onto streaming. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the shooting something that big, you know, that size of where you have, you know, huge big setups. They shot it in LA, and they shot it as Alaska, so you can imagine the amount of money went into create this the street where all the snow was. And I got to work with a hero of mine. Anyone who knows me knows I love The West Wing, and I love Aaron Sorkin, but Bradley Whitford from The West Wing, he was I got to do like 2 big scenes with him. Now, unfortunately, when you work on a big movie like that, there's a lot of moving parts, and they normally shoot like 3 hours of footage. And a lot of my stuff with Bradley Whitford would end up being cut from the movie. And it was interesting. I was asking them why they cut it from the movie. The movie is a famous Jack London book. Most of you probably know that. And it's about at the beginning of when they discovered Alaska, or started going up to Alaska. They realized that the only animals that could pull sleds were dogs. And at that time, they didn't know that huskies were the most suited to that kind of inclement weather. So they had they would just get any big dog, any dog. And so my character works for this big judge, and it's set in Northern California, and he steals his dog. It's not ruining the movie because it's at the beginning of the movie, but he steals the dog. He had a bit of a gambling problem, and so he steals the dog and sells it into slavery, basically. So they tested the movie for an audience, and some people didn't get the bit that I actually stole the dog. They thought that the judge and me were in cahoots, and he'd given me the dog. And so they ended up going back and shooting a whole new opening. And I went back and shot this whole new opening for the movie, where I'm in the opening scene. It's a really beautiful scene, and it's a great scene, but it was good that my 2 big scenes with Bradley Whitford were cut from the movie, because it's just, I working with your heroes is really one of the great things you are lucky enough to get to do in this business. And but still, I'll always have it anyway. I know they were great scenes. In honor of Halloween, do you like horror movies? If so, what's your favorite? I'm a bit of a scaredy cat. I don't love horror movies. I liked Babadook. That scared the shit out of me. And then was it what's the one? Let's just pull it up here. Is it not Insidious? Is it Insidious I saw? No, The Conjuring. That's the one. Scared the shit out of me. There's a time and a place for horror movies, and I really should actually force myself to watch them a little bit more, because they are really edge of your seat type stuff. The Conjuring really was freaky. That scared me, and the Babadook really, really scared me. What supernatural co-star would you quarantine with? Wow. What co-star? I think, you know, I've always had a massive interest in politics, and myself and Misha have gotten into political conversations a lot over the course of the last few years, and I think we definitely have a lot to talk about. So I'd love to. Look at any of them really. I'd love to quarantine with Misha for that reason, and for many others. Myself and David Hayden Jones could also. We've had a lot of evenings together in Los Angeles hanging out. So I can probably very easily hang out with him. Any of the boys. big fan of Alex Calvert as well. We spent some time together in France last year. So listen, it's such a great cast. This is the whole thing about the show. Like, you know, there's been so many fun times we've had together. It's hard to pick out one or two cast members and think that they're you know, more enjoyable to spend time with than others, because you really just chop and change to everyone. Like, you know, myself and my wife and Rob and Ruth went bowling just before quarantine, literally just before quarantine, and we were planning on doing it a good bit during the summer and stuff. Obviously that went by the wayside. But yeah, literally anyone from the cast. Another lockdown starting in the UK next week. What have you been doing and would recommend to others to keep busy? Listen, I had so many amazing plans. I was going to learn Spanish. I was going to do some kind of. I did a lot of cooking at the beginning, and I love cooking. And I think that's great because you can, like, it's a celebratory thing you can do with your family or with, you know, anyone that you live with. Hopefully, you're not living on your own in the UK. But if you are, you can cook for yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. Learning new recipes, trying new things. I got back into playing a lot of video games. I was playing a lot of Call of Duty. I was playing a lot of what else was I was playing? I spent just, you know, at the beginning I was feeling guilty for you know, playing video games again, but then I was like, got into it and I was loving it. Watched a lot of good television and a lot of shitty television as well, which I enjoyed just as much. But, you know, I think one thing that I didn't really do that I really would have liked to have done a little bit more was I could have been better at exercising. And I think, I don't know if anyone here is experiencing the same thing, or experienced the same thing. I think like there's a lot of depression that happened during the quarantine, and especially for people that are unlucky enough to live on their own. And I think you really can help your mind and help yourself a lot by getting physically fit or staying physically fit, or, you know, doing something to exercise your body. Because, and even if that means not leaving the house, you know, just YouTube, pardon me, is the great resource of stuff to do. And I'd really recommend 1 hour a day, get up and do something that's going to feed the body, like, you know, because it's a good opportunity. And as I said, listen, I'm preaching to myself as much as to anyone else here. Like, it was hard. It was hard because, you know, for the first few months I was so energetic and, you know, exercising, and then I just got like bored. I was like, not bored, but just kind of like became so monotonous, and definitely some depression set in there. And I think it's really hard to stay focused in these crazy times anyway. So if you can, you know, you can help your mind by keeping your body in shape. Stay in touch with people that you haven't been in touch with for a while. Write some letters. Do things that you haven't done in a while, because you have the time to do it. You know, you're lucky enough to be part of a great family here, and so, you know, obviously the internet is a great resource, but get a pen and paper out and write a few letters to people and just surprise people on their own. Like, you know, even people that live in that you don't know, you know, people like in old folks' homes, especially the elderly, are like very vulnerable at the moment, and really can do with any kind of help and communication. You know, I'm sure there are plenty of avenues that you could go down by you know, calling people in old folks' homes, just having chats with people who are lonely, who don't have anybody, people in hospitals. You know, we're so lucky in this day and age to have this amazing resource that we're using right now. Hold on, let me see if I can change this. I'll see if I can green screen. I have another one here. Let's see if I can change it to this other one. Oh, no, I can't. I can change it to that one, but I think my Millennium Falcon is better. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, we have this amazing resource, video calling. We can call people, you know, and I think you'd really feel good about yourselves. You know, I think, you know, helping out with people who are more in need than we are. is another way of feeding the mind and yeah, making the time go by and doing something good for your community as well. I don't know if you've heard, but doing Mad Libs with Talent, released with tags on Twitter and Facebook, November 30. Can you give an animal? Last question, Daydream Writer. Oh no, this is okay. I thought Brittany was explaining the last question. She's not. This is the last question. It's been 45 minutes already. Man, I can really love hearing myself talk, can't I? I don't know if you've heard, but doing Mad Libs with Talent, release with tags on Twitter and Facebook, November. Brittany, what does that mean? So I give you an animal and you turn me into an animal? Give her an animal. I would love to give you a dog. Do you like dogs? No, but I'd like an animal that I'm going to be? Perfect. Oh no. I would be a dog. How about that? Although I do, what animal would I really like to be? Would I really like to be? I don't know. Let's just go with dog for now. Make me kind of like a basset hound or something, like with those kind of droopy eyes and stuff like that. Daydream Writer. When you read a script for the first time, what makes a character interesting to you? Oh, wow. Great question. I know it's so interesting because you read so many scripts that you don't get the parts. Like, obviously any actor will tell you, like, you might do 20 auditions and you'll get one of them if you're lucky. But like I've had a lot of I've been lucky enough to play a lot of great characters in my time, and definitely when I read the Being Erica script first, I was blown away by that character because he was a bit of a badass, and he was a bad guy trying to be good, and any, like, to answer your question, what makes it, like, anyone that has an interesting journey, like that has a definite distinctive arc and learn something, and that's why I loved playing Mick, because he did have this distinctive arc. And I know it was only 6 episodes in a show that had 347, but it was so well rounded in the end, that I think that really makes it jump out to me. And then like, there are so many other things, like something that's kind of a departure from myself, that I get to play something that I've never been in life. I think it's one of the reasons I became an actor was to be a fighter pilot and to be a doctor and to be, everything that you can be, and that kind of level of make believe. We're just so lucky. If you get to work in this business, you're just such a lucky person. I was going to say something else, but I just feel so lucky to be able to do that, and I'm so grateful. Okay, well, I'm being kicked off. Guys, thank you all so much for joining in. I miss you all so much. I know this has been a terrible year. I just think that the cons, think of the cons next year. They are going to be off the fucking charts. I guarantee you, karaoke is not, it's going to be crazy. Myself and Matt Cohen will come up with some massive craziness for you guys. Hopefully you're all saving your money, so you can get to come to a few of them. I know I'm going to be so grateful to be back on the circuit again. And yeah, look, I think maybe we're being taught a lesson now, and I think the world is going to be a better place come the new year and come the vaccine, and it's all going to happen. It's going to happen quicker than we think. I think once the ball starts rolling, there'll be a few vaccines out there, and we'll all be out of this, out of the woods. And if anyone had any loved ones that passed from this terrible disease, I'm so sorry, or virus. I'm so sorry. I know we've all been touched by this in so many different ways. But please stay healthy, wear a mask, be responsible, help others in need, and love yourselves. I love you guys so much, and I miss you. And we'll see you very, very soon. I promise. Bye.
Adam, we love you too, and thank you so much for being here with us virtually today. We have indeed missed seeing you in person as well. For those of you who have Adam's one-on-ones, they're coming up right after this. Okay, guys, tipping is now done, and we'll bring you the results in just a few moments. But first, make sure you're signed up on our email list through our website, creationent.com. And follow us at Creation ENT on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for announcements on more virtual content to come. And there is more content that we have not announced yet, so make sure you're connected. And our winner is Patty Hewitt Barbera. Patty, you are our winner of the 5-minute one-on-one video meet and greet with Adam. It's happening right now. It'll be happening right now in just a few moments, so just make sure that your email address is in your top supporter information. If not, hang out in this main chat so we can get a hold of you if you have a problem sending your link. All right, we have more content coming up today. Hope you're going to join us later when we'll be back with the hilarious Sebastian Roche. See you soon.